down by a friend? That's quite a lot. Now, here's an interesting question. How many of you have let a friend down? Oh, thank you for your honesty there. But it's something we've all experienced, isn't it? When a friend lets us down really badly, that sting of disappointment, that shock of betrayal, and that lingering question, how could they do that to me? I thought they were my friend. Now, I have a really funny story this week. Somewhere in the American hills, two friends were out walking, and they stopped for a break, and there was a nice little brook. They were on their own, and they thought they'd have a paddle, so they took the trainers off, paddled in the water, and then, suddenly, a grizzly bear started charging towards them. One of the men quickly put his running shoes on, and the other said, "It's pointless, you can't outrun a grizzly bear." And his friend said, "No, I don't need to outrun the grizzly bear, I just need to outrun you." Well, I really hope that's not true. But it makes a point, doesn't it? You thought someone had you back, but when things got tough, they were gone. They were just looking out for themselves. That's painful, isn't it? But here's what I want you to hold on to today. Hurt happens, but you get to choose healing. Now, some years ago, I went through one of the most painful experiences of my life. I was going through a really difficult time in the church where I was. This was quite some years ago. And a mutual friend, a friend actually saw that I really needed some help. And he was kind of in authority in the network of churches. So he asked someone who he knew was a bit of a mentor to me. He actually sent him an email and said, "Could you come up to Chesterfield and see Simon? You really need some help." And I thought, this is great, yeah. This guy's coming to help. And I really trusted and loved and respected this guy. I could count on him, I thought. He's going to be in my corner. But it was a bitter disappointment. Now, I won't go into the details, but I remember that moment as vividly as it happened yesterday, when effectively he threw me under a bus. It was like a punch to the gut. I felt betrayed and hurt and deeply confused. And it made me wonder, was this guy a mentor or a tormentor? Now, to be honest, I was really angry with him for a long time. And that didn't do me any good at all, because I just got angry and bitter and twisted. And I had to come to the point where I realised this mustn't dominate my life anymore. I couldn't change what happened. I couldn't change what he did. And actually, he still thought he did the right thing, but I could change my attitude. I could lose that bitterness. So, I decided to ring him up. And he was getting on years, and I thought, I don't want to find someone he's gone to heaven, and I've never had that conversation with him. So I rang him up and had that conversation, and just, how are you, and what's going on, and told him what I was doing. And it wasn't an easy conversation, but I just had to do it. And that was the first step in my journey to healing. It was like Jesus was saying, come on, move on from this, don't hold on to that bitterness. Hurt happens, but you get to choose healing. Now, I know many of you have been there too. Maybe it wasn't a mentor, it might have been a partner who cheated on you, or was cruel to you, or verbally abusive to you, or a parent who abused you or told you you were worthless and you carry that around with you now, or a colleague who undermined you and talked behind your back and got that promotion that you wanted, and you have to see them every day and they're your boss now. Or a friend who betrayed you. You heard them talking about you when they didn't think you were listening, and they were saying the most horrible things. You trusted them, and they let you down. It's awful, isn't it? It feels like having a rug pulled from under you. There's a nasty taste in your mouth. Now, what I would say is, you're not alone. I'm sure there's most people here say, yeah, that's happened to me. What I really would want to plead with you is, don't do what I do. Don't leave it so long to choose to take that journey to move on, to choose healing. Don't let it control your life as I had for some time. Choose to move forward. Choose to receive healing. It doesn't mean forgetting what happened. It doesn't mean pretending that it doesn't hurt. It means refusing to let it control you. So this morning, I want to help you start that journey. Now, you might not be a Jesus follower, and you're sitting there thinking, well, that's a bit unrealistic. Come on, mate, let's get in a real world about this. Now, I get it. It's hard. It's difficult, and you hear these wonderful stories of people, you think, well, I can't possibly do that. But what I just say, stick with me, because as hard as this is, it's possible to take this journey and find freedom. And whether you're a Jesus follower or not, I want to encourage you to take those steps and not let it control you. So we're just finishing this series, Been There. And we've been running for, this is week 5, we've been running for the last 4 weeks. And we've been seeing that Jesus isn't some distant figure removed from all the struggles and the problems that we face. He is God who became a real human being while still being God. That's a bit of a mind bender, but you know, that's true. We accept that. We see that. He's been through it all. And we've seen how he's faced setbacks. He's had curveballs thrown at him. He's known what it's like when life is on pause. He's experienced the frustrations of life. And he's had people who've just driven him to his limits, but he hasn't got beyond those. He's been tempted in ways that could have wrecked everything. And today, we're going to see how Jesus was let down by his closest friend. But he didn't let that betrayal have the final word. Because he knew that hurt happens, but you get to choose healing. And he set us just a wonderful example to follow. And you know, if you're a Jesus follower, actually, he will enable you to do that. And I want to encourage everybody to think about that first step to take on that road. Jesus shows us how to choose healing, even in the face of betrayal. So come with me, this is the scene. Jesus is in Jerusalem, it's towards the end of his life. He knows it's not long before he'll get arrested, and he knows his arrest will lead to his execution on the cross. And so he has this final meal with his disciples, the very people he's been pouring himself into over the last 3 years, being with day in, day out. They're like a family together. So he shares a meal with them. You know, it's like when you get a meal with people you're close to and you might not see them for a long time. It's hard, it's tough, it's emotional. These were the people who shared meals with him, performed miracles, and they saw him perform miracles, and he taught them about God's kingdom. And now in his darkest hour, as they gathered around him, his closest friends are about to desert him and scatter. Judas, who he trusted with the money, is going to betray him for a handful of coins. And Peter was the person that Jesus called the Rock. It wasn't the actor called The Rock, but The Rock was describing actually what he was going to do, but The Rock was going to crumble. Now let's imagine that moment. Jesus is sitting there looking around at the face of his friends. Candlelight flickering, smell of bread and wine lingering in the air. And he knows what's coming. And in the middle of that meal, he looks at Peter. Peter, who was one of the closest people to him. There were 3 people closest to him, and he was one of them, one of the key guys. Always looking out for Jesus. Always wanting the best for Jesus. Always telling people about Jesus. He looks him in the eye and he says, Satan has asked to test you as a farmer tests his wheat. But I pray that you will not lose your faith. Help your brothers be stronger when you come back to me. Now Satan, as we saw last week, Satan is God's enemy. Now if you're not a Jesus follower and you've got a picture in your mind of someone with horns and a tail and a pitchfork, put that in your mind and just see that this is Jesus' enemy and part that. We can look at that at another time, but this is God's enemy who wants to pull the disciples away. And when he talks about a farmer testing, he's talking about sifting. And actually what he's saying is shaking, because a farmer would sift the wheat by kind of shaking it. So he's saying, the enemy's going to really come to you and he's going to really shake you through this. You know what experience where you feel totally shaken? That's what he's describing there. I've been praying for you. Even though Peter's going to betray me, I've been praying for you that you won't lose your faith. There's still a chance to change direction, Peter. But even if you don't, there's hope the other side. I find that amazing. Even in breaking that news, he's looking ahead to Peter being restored and coming back for it all. Now, Peter is a guy who's, we call him a man's man. That's why it's called Rocky, I guess. He's kind of like Sylvester Stallone, Rocky. A tough guy. And he doesn't want to sound like he's going to fail, so he says, Lord, I'm ready to go to prison with you. Even die with you. Jesus cuts through all of that, and he says, before the rooster crows tomorrow morning, you know what that's like, you've been in the country, it's morning time. Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times that you even know me. Jesus knows that Peter would let him down. But he doesn't focus on the hurt. He focuses on Peter's restoration and healing. Already, he's focused on something else. So fast forward a few hours. Jesus is arrested, dragged away like a common criminal, and Peter follows at a distance, lurking in the shadows. He's warming himself by the fire when a servant girl points him out and says, "This man was one of Jesus' followers." You know what it's like when there's this kind of witch hunt for people. You're looking for anyone connected. There's one of them. And Peter gets afraid and nervous. And everything Jesus said has gone out of his mind. And he denies it. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. And then the rooster crows. Can you imagine that moment? Can you imagine being in Peter's place? I mean, for all his bravado and for all the ways that he let Jesus down, he was a decent man, he was a good man, he wanted to follow Jesus, he had the best of intentions, and he failed miserably at the point of testing. It must have been terrible for him. The regret, the shame, the heartbreak. And at that point we're told that Jesus looked at Peter. He must have been quite near as he was going past. Now we don't know the way that he looked at him, but we can be certain that he wouldn't have given him a sour look. Or even a sorrowful look, I don't think. I think the look would kind of express something like this. I know you failed, but I still love you. A kind of look of reassurance. We know that even when Peter hit rock bottom, Jesus didn't give up on him. Because hurt happens, but you get to choose healing. Meanwhile, Jesus is dragged from one trial to another. Spat on, mocked, beaten, and eventually nailed to a cross. And he hangs there, gasping for every breath, surrounded by a crowd who are jeering and taunting him. And who's in that crowd? Some of the same people who followed him, cheered for him, and hung on his every word just days ago. Some of the people who welcomed him into the city, hailing him as a great hero, a new ruler. But now they're shouting, "Crucify him!" And with his last breath, he says, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing." In the face of betrayal and hatred, Jesus chose forgiveness. See, it's not something you feel. You know, I didn't feel forgiving towards that person, but I had to choose it. And actually, it's when I chose it, everything started changing. Jesus paved the way. Jesus prayed for those people who were mocking him and taunting him and nailing him to the cross. And after his resurrection, Jesus doesn't avoid Peter or push him away. You know, it's like when you've fallen out with someone and you see them and you just try and give them a wide berth and you just try and get as far away from them as possible. I had a teacher at school and he was like a massive guy, absolutely massive. If you're massive, I'm really sorry. But just because I'm on a diet, I can say that, you see. But he really was huge and you couldn't miss him. I saw him. Actually, the funny thing was I saw him at a service station. Do you know what? I was so terrified in my head. I hid behind the car. And he clocked me. So he came behind the car and he said, "Hello, Simon, how are you doing?" You know, it's embarrassing, isn't it? But you know, you give people a wide berth. Jesus had none of that. And we give people who hurt us a wide berth, don't we? Jesus didn't actually. When he rose from the dead, he said, "Where's Peter? Tell Peter I'm going to meet him by the lakeside." And there he meets Peter on the shores of Galilee, and he says this. He says, "Feed my sheep." Now, that might seem a funny thing if you don't know anything about Jesus. I mean, was Peter a fisherman? Is he going to say change career and be a farmer, be a sheep farmer? Well, that was an expression from the Bible, from the writings, from the prophets, and God's people are often pictured as sheep. And he's saying, take care of them. What he's saying effectively is, I've got a big role for you to fulfill. That hasn't changed. I'm entrusting my people to you. I want you to take care of them. He's been there. He's been let down by someone he loved and trusted. And he shows us that hurt happens. But you get to choose healing. Now, I know it can be tough when someone you trust lets you down. Maybe it was a partner who walked away, or a friend who betrayed your trust, or a colleague who undermined you. It's that punch in the gut feeling, isn't it? Having a rug pulled out from under your feet. All those emotions come flooding back. Anger, sadness, disbelief. One of the things we try and do, especially if you're a Jesus follower, you try and say, well, I shouldn't be feeling these things. Yes, you should. It's human to feel these things. It's what you do with those feelings that counts. It's whether you let them control you. Don't just try and push them down, because they'll just come bouncing up again. We've all met these people who think that you should have a nice smile on your face and be a nice, happy Christian. We were on a trip once. I was taking this group on a trip. We were in Venice. I got them lost, actually, in the city of Venice. That's another story. If you know me, I get people lost a lot. And it absolutely poured with rain. And then it was quite a walk to where the campsite was. Absolutely pouring with rain. And we had this guy, and he said, come on, we're Jesus people, we should be joyful. And he said, praise the Lord for the rain. And I said, oh, shut up, will you? And actually, the person who was leading with me, she turned around and she said, oh, what a turkey. It was raining. It's all right to feel bad about the rain. You've been betrayed. It's all right to feel bad about it. It's all right to feel sad and hurt. It's all right to struggle with anger. It's what you do, how you move on that counts. I get it. I've been there. I've been on that journey. I'm still on that journey in many ways. But here's what I've learned. And I say, I'm still learning, really, because as I say, this is a journey. We can't always control what happens to us, but we control how we respond. And here's the clincher. Healing isn't about forgetting or pretending you're not hurt. It's about saying, this isn't going to control my life anymore. Now, maybe you're not a Jesus follower and you're thinking, this isn't for me. This is impossible. Yeah, I get that. But here's what I want you to consider. What if there's a way to live beyond the hurt? A way to let go of the anger? To release that bitterness that keeps you stuck? You know it's poisoning your relationships. You know it makes you angry, and it comes out when you see your kids when your kids are late for school, or they're doing something they shouldn't do. All of that resentment kind of builds up. You don't want that. And it's not impossible. There is a way to let go of that anger and release the bitterness that keeps you stuck. There was that ad for the AA, wasn't there? Can you do this? No, but I know a man who can. I'm not the expert, but I know a man who can. That's why this series has been there. I know that Jesus shows the way. Jesus shows the way how we can stop these things controlling us, how we can find healing, how we can get to choose it. I don't want to invite you, if you're not a Jesus follower, to take that step with me and to explore what that kind of healing could look like in your life. To take that first step and say, I want to be healed from this. I want to get past this. You don't have to sign up to loads of things before I'll help you, but just today, just say, I want help. I want help with this. And if you're already following Jesus, here's what I want to hear you to hear today. We're called to something bigger than the hurt. It's about letting Jesus transform us, because we know that we have the Holy Spirit through Jesus. And he makes us more like Jesus. It means that we're not defined by what happened to us, but by how we respond, just as Jesus was. It's about making a choice, not to let that betrayal or hurt have the final word, but to let forgiveness shape the story. So what's your next step? Maybe it's just saying, I'm tired of letting this pain ruin my life. Step by step, it's kind of baby steps, isn't it? But just come to that point and say, I don't want this anymore, it's no good. Maybe it's asking God to help you start the journey to forgive, even if you're not ready to completely let go. Or maybe it's reaching out for help, knowing that there's someone else who's been through that and can help you on the journey. Whatever it is, take that step. It's a journey I'm still on. We're all still on. And when we invite Jesus into our hurt, he brings healing in ways we never thought possible. So let's not let hurt have the final word. You don't have to get stuck in that pain. Hurt happens, but you get to choose healing. So today I invite you to take a step towards that healing. Choosing to forgive, even if you don't feel like it. Saying, I'm ready to let go. Wherever you are, start there. Jesus knows the pain you're carrying, and he's offering you a new way forward.